So over this last couple weeks, we had a major industry shakeup as it pertains to big media. We're talking about movies, we're talking about television shows, streaming shows. There is an entire writer's strike that's happening. And the last time this happened, I still remember when it did because it was like between, I want to say Office season 4 and 5, may have been 3 and 4, like one of the two. And we didn't get Office for over a year. And this is like my favorite show of all time. Imagine how I felt when it was coming out. I was waiting every single week. Changed my life. And we had not just a delay of 4 months in production. The timer starts once they get back, and then they get back to work. So a 4-month delay can equal upwards of a year delay of things actually being seen. And that's a television show, let alone a movie, that may take even longer.
Yeah, there's another writer's strike happening right now. And yeah, like Tom said, last time this happened was 2007. I want to say, yeah, I think you're right. Season 4-ish of The Office, which in my opinion is when the show started to go downhill. That's about when I stopped loving The Office, unfortunately. It's also season 4 of Lost, which is when I think that's that show's weakest season as well. It's also the shortest. Anyway, that was one of the actually solutions they had to the problems created by the writer's strike, was just shorter TV seasons overall. It takes less time.
So what's going on right now? Because the main thing that we're hearing about is the incorporation of streaming services being the dominant way that profit is made from these industries. And how could that relate to the comic market?
Classic situation, right? We're talking about a socioeconomic issue where you have the bosses up top, you have the people down below, and people not feeling like they're getting enough money in. But we also have to kind of look at some of this bigger picture of what's happening in film, period, and television. So with comics, yeah, we're going to get delays. All right, we will get delays. And not only that, we got to worry now. If you have a delay with a show and you have an artist tied to, or like when I say artist, I mean an actor, what other jobs are they going to have to delay or jump from if they're even able to? So you might even have a larger delay than you think, right? Because like if I'm supposed to time this show right and end so I can jump on my next film, if that's delayed, then what happens? Do we lose an actor that could have been the best for that role or not?
Yeah, that's definitely and kind of I would almost say an unseen element of this writer's strike. Yeah, it'll shake up all sorts of different crew members on all sorts of different projects, and we'll get different things, different results as a result of that. But yeah, since this is a writer's strike, this affects strictly the screenwriters of various projects. So since the industry knew this was coming for quite a while, there are certain projects that were rushed and submitted before this deadline happened. So we have things like House of the Dragon Season 2.
It makes sense why James Gunn finished his Superman Legacy script just the other week.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, he finished that surprisingly quickly. So those are safe. They should be safe to be able to start filming and casting and doing all of the things that don't require writers anymore. However, other projects that are a little earlier in the process, because writing does happen pretty much at the beginning, those are in jeopardy right now. And there are several different movies and TV shows that are currently on hiatus until they can figure out this strike, unfortunately.
As it pertains to production that may be being delayed that correlate to comic collectibles, there's only a handful on this list, but some you're going to recognize. And I want you to think about the key comics that have spiked in the last couple of years that have had ebbs and flows because of delays already, and then compound that with an additional what could be 4 to 5 months delay plus production time. We have Stranger Things Season 5, which we've had multiple occurrences of trending and hot Stranger Things, not just books, but variants as well, store variants, etc. Blade, how's that roller coaster been?
That's probably the most comic relevant thing we're talking about here, obviously, since that's based off the Marvel comics. But yeah, even before the strike, there have been so many hurdles and roadblocks and speed bumps in the Blade production, from switching directors and delays while they had to find a new director to, I think, even Mahershala Ali kind of stepped back from the project for a bit until it was a little more solid. Mm-hmm. We actually just got news like a week or two ago that they signed an actress, Mia Goth, right, to play an unknown character in the movie. And the Blade is actually, Blade-related spec, that is, has actually made the Hot 10 in the trending list recently. It had been looking good for Blade up until last week when the writer's strike happened, and that is now one of the projects that is confirmed to be paused.
Wasn't it just a week prior to that they got a writer as well?
Yeah, they brought on the True Detective creator Nick Pizzolatto to do like a rewrite of the original script too, which is super exciting for me. I hope he sticks around, for when the strike's over. I love that guy.
Another big deal that everyone loves, Abbott Elementary, that's getting delayed. Cobra Kai, that's another book that was surprisingly trending. Multiple issues, variants as well. MTV Movie Awards.
It might not be our jam, but if this was in a different time of the year and like this was a different award season, if like the Emmys were on pause or the Oscars or a bigger tier like awards show, I think that's an ill omen, unfortunately.
Ooh, and speaking of Omen, Neil Gaiman's TV series Good Omens, and he's a comic book writer as well.
Yeah, he's a classic comic writer, obviously for Sandman and stuff. He's a member of the Writers Guild, and he was a big creative on Good Omens. So he's obviously very impacted here from both sides, comics and TV.
There's a surprising amount of creatives in comics that dabble in like the more mainstream productions, writers that kind of do both comic writing and script writing, etc., getting attached to shows. We've chatted about that a lot over the last couple of weeks alone. I would assume that those individuals who are not going to be spending much time doing that may look at comic writing as a possible way to have their not just source of income, but their creative outlet.
Oh, that would be interesting. You're saying that they could move from their WGA, whatever title or association and into another industry such as comics?
Yeah, one that doesn't have it, that also has its own concerns in regards to artists and writers' pay.
I'm glad they're striking to get what they are owed. I'm sure there's a discrepancy. Ultimately, though, I still want to see better writing. Like, how many of these shows have we seen, these movies, at least, not even TV shows, but mostly movies that we're all waiting on, Blade, and what other ever Marvel movie it's going to be, that we end up complaining about the freaking story.
That's why I'm so upset, man, because we finally got good news about Nick Pizzolatto, who created True Detective, which is I will stand by that being like one of the greatest shows of the 2010s. That's one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. And having a writer of that caliber brought onto specifically a current era Marvel movie, I think really elevates. It's something you can't ignore, Blade. And now it's all in jeopardy with that. And I think the ripple effects are going to be even worse moving forward. Because, this is all short term. And like stuff like Jimmy Kimmel and SNL and stuff that's like on a rapid production schedule, that's already stopped. Like those are already paused. And we're going to get releases of stuff that's already almost done and things they're editing and finishing. Like it's not going to affect anything coming out this summer or even through probably the rest of this year. But once we start getting into early 2024 and the summer of 2024, things are going to get a lot more sticky.
Yeah, and even then, if you get these writers and you get the script you like, you always get worried that some executive producer is going to come in and just, when it comes time, just completely dilute it or ruin it anyway. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just hoping for better projects in the future. I don't know. I'm just kind of going off on a tangent here, but gosh darn it, guys, just so you guys aren't too scared, 1988 was the longest strike, and that was only from March to August. So we're not talking generally years here, okay? So I'm sure they'll come to some type of terms eventually. So it will be a delay and there will be effects. And it's unfortunate, of course, the comic market. But even then, let's talk about the comic market for real. How hot does it really get anymore? When we hear a little bit of a buzz, it's a flash in the pan, maybe a week before that book either stays or slides. Okay, so is it even fair for us to put so much weight on a movie anymore to drive the comic market? All right. I mean, I think the comics can maybe drive themselves at this point. We've kind of seen it plateau. Either the book's good or the comic market's there for the collectors. And yeah, you might get a flash there where it spikes for a short minute, but then it really comes back to reality pretty quickly because, I don't know, maybe we're not seeing the huge success in the movies that we're hoping, or that's it.
There's just a lot going on, dude.
What's
There's
funny
so
is
many movies.
Kevin Feige recently came out and said, like, you know what, we're going to slow down the amount of production we're doing. There's too much stuff coming out now, so we're going to put a little bit of a break on, on all this stuff coming out so fast. And now they're like, everything's shut down. So I don't think he meant it in that sort of way. But I think one of the reasons we don't see as much of a boom, an impact in the comic market, in the aftermarket, is because there's just so many projects. And every week we get news about some other thing to make us. Everyone's always switching their focus, and it's hard to stay locked in on one specific book that we see week over week, like something like Omega Man or Last of Us.
We were chatting about the binge model and how that has been just horrendous for the collectibles because the hype is just lost. And this writer's strike and the concerns that have been put out, it's been very revealing on the creative process. All along the way, as things have changed, more money has been garnered from streaming services, and that hasn't had the trickle down effect that you would expect it to the creative teams putting these on. But additional to that, the way that they produce scripts and stories has also changed, where they hire these like writers groups for particular projects, and sometimes it's just paying for a bunch up front so that they can then use them later over time at their leisure. And because of that, you're seeing a lot of quick work happen, and it's like commissioning scripts. And if those payments aren't like really beneficial to the writers and they're not like trickling down as we're describing as that they want, well, you get what we're left with, which is people who traditionally years ago would get the commercial money and have like solid paychecks from their writing work to now getting dollars. Like literally some of the quotes are like under $10 for streaming air episodes.
Yeah, for commissions like on the
like the royalties.
The royalties on it. Yeah,
It makes sense. They got a paycheck every time there's a rerun of Seinfeld or whatever happens. You get a little cut of that. You know, every time there's a commercial that runs on your show, you get a little cut of that. Now in the streaming era, there's not really reruns. It's just on the platform forever, and there's no commercials on those usually. So, what is the where does that money go? So I think the whole point of the strike now is that the creators really just need to have an updated contract for the streaming era of TV that we're in right now.
I want to know in the comment section below, is now the time to start seriously speccing on Blade? You heard why we're excited about the movie, but also why we're super disappointed. Will that translate into drops that will make some collectibles a bit more exciting to purchase? Help your fellow members in the comment section below.